We'll go ahead and get started. Again, this is a presentation on cyanotypes. And so, well, some of you may have had an opportunity to do these, and it might look familiar. Sometimes in art class, an art teacher will do cyanotypes, sometimes at like summer camps and cool things, like maybe in your elementary or junior high school. You might have had an art teacher that did these, but we'll talk more about it, but it's photosensitive paper, and it's a way of taking a photograph without actually using film and a camera and things like that. So, and this will apply to the project that we're going to be doing. So first of all, a photogram, that's just a general term. So a cyanotype is a type of photogram, and that's just a photographic print that's made by placing objects on light-sensitive paper. Again, no cameras used, and that object, whatever the object, blocks the light from hitting the paper, so the paper underneath of it is in its shadow, essentially, and it doesn't get exposed like the rest of the paper. Okay, Henry Fox Talbot was, this is a name that we're going to talk about throughout the year, one of the originals and guys that helped develop and get photography going back in the 1830s. He was a pioneer, and he started making photograms of natural things, of plants. And so think back, 1830s, cameras didn't exist, cell phones definitely didn't exist, or videotapes or anything. And so the only way to record a plant that you'd find out in nature is to draw it and sketch it. And obviously that takes time. And so this was an opportunity for scientists, botanists, biologists to take things that they found in the field and make these photograms, these what he referred to them as photogenic drawings, and create something that was very realistic to what they were seeing, and didn't take nearly as much time and was much more accurate. All right. So some of these actually took time, the developing process, but very accurate and preserved for a long time. We still have these we're talking almost 200 years ago that they were made. Okay. Other types of photograms taken by photographers were more like kind of surreal and abstract works. Man Ray is a photographer that made these photograms. And it wasn't until the 20th century that they really became artwork. And so before this, it was documenting science and nature. And it wasn't until, almost 100 years later or so that they started to become actual works of art and more focusing on the creative side of things. Man Rays were known as the rayograms. Because he claims he discovered the process. He definitely used it a lot. All right, so here's a few more examples. So we can see that we're just taking objects and, nothing like a photograph, but we can create almost a warped perspective, and they got creative with how they were taking three-dimensional objects and putting them onto a two-dimensional piece of paper, light source. So artificial light was used to help kind of bend the light, create weird shadows and things like that, and make it a little more interesting. Other examples of things that are just laid out. And notice that all these examples, they have interesting edges and outlines. Like if you were to put a cell phone and make a cell phone, you just have a rectangle and you wouldn't see anything else, right? But with these keys, we have a lot of different cool outlines and shapes, and we've got these pins and the fingers and the hands and the scissors. And so when you're making these for our project, what we're going to do, think of the outline of whatever you're taking a photo of, because you're not going to see the middle of it unless it's somewhat transparent on a photogram like this. Okay, so a cyanotype is a specific type of photogram. This was made with photo paper that was coated in an iron salt solution. potassium ferrocyanide, to be specific, and then ammonium citrate. And that object was put on top, and it was exposed under light, under glass, and so you ended up with this surface negative. So they were used in Britain again to capture plants and things like that back in the 1800s. Anna Atkins was very well known for her work. They were called shadowgraphs because we're taking a look at the shadow. And cyanotype, cyan, when you buy printer ink and things like that, that's the blue color. That's why they're called cyanotypes, is because of the blueprint. So again, Anna Atkins, first woman photographer, and she became interested in just making these accurate drawings of plant life and used her photography in the process as one of her tools. And again, you could take this and then make a drawing from it when you're back at home, and again, help with the photorealism of that drawing. Okay, so cyanotypes are monochromatic, mono meaning one, chromatic meaning color, so we're dealing with one color. A black and white image, one color. A cyanotype, one color. So we'll refer to black and white images as monochromatic. Cyanotypes, other types of photograms, generally going to be monochromatic. So just definitions that you should keep in the back of the head, because throughout the year I will use those, and it's important that you understand how they work. So the way a cyanotype works, just like I've already mentioned, we're going to take flowers or whatever we're looking at. We're going to put it on top of the piece of paper and expose it to sunlight or some other type of light that chemical reaction between the light and the chemicals that are on the paper causes parts of it to react, and the other parts that aren't exposed to the light don't react. And then that's washed and removes the chemicals, and you're left behind with your photogram or cyanotype. Okay, so other examples. Again, notice there's lots of good lines and some detail to look at.